Well, I think you all have had a chance to get settled in, and I hope that you are excited for this morning's conversation. Welcome to our NFL Character Playbook event today. We want to say hi to all of the schools and all of the students across Washington and Seahawks country who are watching today. We are wrapping up a very unique and challenging year. This is our time to come together and to figure out ways to make challenges look different as part of a way to build resilience. And this all comes back around to finding ways to be yourself, because we are not always going to be happy. We are going to have good days. We are going to have to be bad. We're going to have bad days. And there's a lot of complicated feelings that go into this. We're going to talk about how to handle some of those feelings today. We have a special guest that's going to join us in just a couple of minutes. He is one that I get to work with on a regular basis as the sideline reporter for the Seattle Seahawks. I've worked for the Seahawks for 12 years, and I've talked to a lot of athletes, but I have never worked with one who uses poetry so eloquently to describe his feelings as this.
It would seem to me the proposition of is the American dream at the expense of the American Negro is a question hideously loaded, and that one's response to that question, or one's reaction to that question, has to depend on an effect on where you find yourself in the world.
When I look in the mirror,
I see a black man.
I see a strong black man.
A bold black man.
Someone who's truly proud to be a black man.
when I look in the mirror, not only do I see a black man,
I see a risk taker.
Caregiver, a genuine spirit, a loving heart.
a man that dreams,
A man that protects.
Just like you.
Just like you.
Just like you.
When I look in the mirror,
I see a black man with a vision.
a black man with passion.
When I look into the mirror, not only do I see a black man, but I see leadership.
Unity, accountability, growth.
Just like you.
Just like you.
just like you.
When I look in the mirror,
I see a black man that cares. A black man that cries.
A black man that feels pain.
When I look in the mirror,
I see a man of faith.
a man of character.
A man of standards and a man of values.
Just like you.
just like you.
Just like you.
When I look in the mirror,
I see more than a black man.
But what do you see, America?
An entertainer,
An athlete,
What else do you see?
A gangbanger,
a drug dealer,
What else do you see?
a liar.
a thief.
What else do you see?
What else do you see?
What else do you see?
A criminal?
A lowlife.
Why not a lawyer? Why not a doctor?
Why not a son?
why not a father?
Why not a chef?
Why not a teacher?
why not a realtor?
Why not a principal?
Why not a policeman? Why not a firefighter?
Why not a CEO?
Why not a mayor?
Why not a governor?
Who says I can't be those things?
You or society?
Because when I look in the mirror,
Not only do I see a black man,
but I see the next president.
I see a better America.
I bet that made you feel uncomfortable, huh?
Imagine what it's like.
Imagine what it's like.
Imagine.
Imagine what it's like.
Imagine what it's like to be black in America.
What a powerful message that is shared by Tyler Lockett and by a number of people in that video. The creator of that video, the writer, and the producer of that video joins us now. Tyler, it is so good to see you.
Hey, nice seeing you too. How's everything been going?
Well, I miss seeing you in person, but all things considered, I think we're turning the corner and that's going to happen soon.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's definitely gonna happen. I got vaccinated, stuff like that, so I'm good.
Before we jump into the conversation, where did the inspiration for that video come from?
Well, one of the guys reached out to me about possibly being able to put something together for NFL Network, and I accepted the opportunity. I thought it would be something that would be really, really cool for me to do. During everything that kind of happened last year, everybody had to figure out, what's my role in this? How do I want to be a part of this? How am I going to be able to make an impact that, I feel comfortable in being able to make? It's hard figuring out where you're supposed to be at during this situation of everything that's going on. And so for me, just to be able to use one of the gifts that I've been blessed with to be able to put something together that a lot of people believed in, You know, sometimes when you write stuff, people got to sign off on it. They got to accept it. They got to say this is good. And just the fact that not only was it accepted, but that there was a lot of people who was willing to put aside the time to come in, record it. And I think it turned out to be a really, really great project.
It is. And we are not the only ones who have noticed that. I hope that that gets a lot of attention for everything that you have done here in the coming days. Now, I would be remiss if we did not give you just a little bit of an introduction, even though I am sure that everybody here knows who you are, but you are a Seahawks wide receiver. You are an author, and you're going to help lead this conversation today. And I've got some stats that are written, but I really think it's going to be helpful if the students can help us out in filling in some of these pieces on your bio. So how about a couple of poll questions? You good with that, Tyler?
Yeah.
Okay. So students, here we go. Here's your chance to contribute. How many total career touchdowns does Tyler Lockett have? Go ahead and take your guess. Is it 25, 49, 41, or 32? And I'm going to give it just a second here so that folks can weigh in. Tyler, do any of those numbers on the screen surprise you?
Well,
like, are they all within range, or do you look at one of them and go, that's too high, that's too low? Like, it can't possibly be that.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard because, I mean, you got to add everything together from returns to running to receiving.
That's
and so when you add all those in, that's where it starts to get a little bit tricky.
Okay, well, we've given them a chance to weigh in. Do you want to tell people how many career touchdowns you have?
Yeah, so let's start off with, it's not 49. I can tell you that much.
Although 50% of our respondents think that you have that many.
But look, this is the same thing when you see the biggest number, you pick the biggest number because at that way you can't be wrong. It's like, well, I believe in you enough to think you got this much. But the correct answer is 41. Crazy because I thought it was 40, but I forgot that I also had a rushing touchdown. So, hey, I never thought I could have a rushing touchdown, but I do have one in my career, so it's 41.
There you go. Okay, so second poll question. Let's see what numbers we have for this one. In 2020, which is last year, Tyler posted a regular season career high in receptions. How many catches did he make? We're going to see if people use that same theory that you just said about the highest number this time around. I'm going to say, can I give him a hint, Tyler?
You want to, or you want me to?
No, you can give him the hint. You should give him the hint.
This should be 100%.
That is a great hint. That is a great hint, and so much better than I was going to do. Let's see how they did, and let's see if they took the hit. 86% did. That's a pretty good number. It's not quite 100%, but 86% isn't bad. Yeah, 100 receptions. 100 touchdowns would be awesome. We'll celebrate that in a few years. In 2020, he and DK Metcalf absolutely eating up the yards, eating up the receptions for the Seahawks last year. Now, this is only the start of the conversation. If you've got questions for Tyler along the way, go ahead and put them in that Q&A section. I know that we're not going to get to all of them, but we will get to as many as we possibly can during our time together. Football is only one of the things that we are going to talk about today. Tyler, when you think back over the last 12 to 18 months, and I've only spoken to you a couple of times during that time frame, what was the most challenging part of the last year for you?
I think the most challenging part was honestly just growth. You know, when you grow up, when you've been playing for so long, you develop this type of mindset, not only on the field, but also in life, that things are supposed to go the same way that you think, or people are supposed to be the same way that you are. And you realize along the way that it's not like that at all. And you start realizing that life is not a formula, that people in your life is not a formula, relationships are not a formula. Like, to have a good game or a bad game, none of that has to do with formula. People just try to tell you the best sequences to try to get the best results. But just because you put in everything into something doesn't mean it's always going to come out with something that's going to result in success or whatever it is that you think. But the biggest thing that I've had to learn that these 18 months taught me was learning how to win. And the reason why I say that is a lot of people, we have our different ways to survive in this world. You know, we have coping mechanisms. Some people, the way that you're brought up, you're taught how to survive. And then your way of being able to survive through life situations or people or family or relationships, sometimes that way of survival hurts other people around you. And we don't think too much about it because all we know how to do is to make sure that we win out of the situation. And so what these last couple of months have taught me was not only to learn how to win, but to learn how to win in a healthy state of mind. Like to learn how to win in a healthy way to where you're not winning and you're burning bridges. You know, you're not winning and you're the only one celebrating, but learning even through a loss, how to be able to win through that loss in a healthy way to where you start realizing there is no outcome of failure when you learn how to win even through those failure type of moments.
So give me an example. Give me an example of how the end result would be a loss, right? Like you lose a game or you know that you didn't reach the outcome that you wanted, but give me an example of how you would find that way to win.
Yeah, so like for instance, let's put it like this. I broke my leg my second year. You know, I had an opportunity to finally be able to start moving to that number 2 role. I took off, you know, when we played the Rams. Everything was going smooth. I was having a great season, especially towards the end. Then I broke my leg. You can either count that as a win or a loss, but that's something that's going to be determined further down the line. Like when you look at it at that moment, it's like, ooh, can he come back the same? That's a gruesome leg injury. Nobody knows. Ooh, he lost a step. Ooh, he's not the same. He's not as explosive. All of those can be considered losses. You know, like he lost his speed. He lost this. He lost that. He's not the same anymore. But if you count those losses as wins, you have to learn how to be able to adapt and learn how to be your best self. And when I lost a half a step, I won in other areas. So I actually won my half a step back mentally because I learned how to set people up a different way to gain that half a step back, though it's not there. And so the more and more that you teach yourself to win in areas of life, whether it's your relationships or whether it's your family members, like I said, now when I'm look back at those, it's 4 years ago. Now when I look back at when I broke my leg, I see it as a victory because I'm still doing the same exact thing that I've been doing and I'm excelling at it at a higher level than I did even before I broke my leg. And so does it look the same? No, but it's good for it not to look the same. And so that's why I said, but learning how to win in a healthy way teaches me to lean on love, teaches me to lean on forgiveness, teaches me to lean on peace, understanding that not everything needs a response. And to understand that sometimes no response is the best response. Sometimes love and forgiveness is the best, you know, antidote to whatever it is that's coming your way. And that's how you learn how to win in a healthy and a peaceful state of mind.
And it sounds like you chose the positive way to look at challenges, because you can look at challenges as being a positive or a negative, right? They could be the teaching experience or they could be the roadblock. As we're thinking about the students listening today, why is it important to think about a challenge as an opportunity and to look at the possibilities, not just how frustrated you are in the moment?
Yeah, well, I think there's so many different ways I can answer that, because when you see the situations at hand, sometimes when you focus on it too much, you start to give it so much power to where you start to become anxious. And I've even learned that when you start giving things too much power and credibility, and you start thinking that you can't live without this, all of these things are things that we make our idols. And that becomes like our necessities. I need this. But when you take a step back, you start to realize that you don't need any of those things. Those things need you. Like depression can't exist unless you allow it to come into your life. So depression needs you in order for you to be depressed. Just like success needs you, just like peace needs you. So it's your decision on whether to choose what it is that you want to be able to bring into your life. But if you focus on a certain area, if you focus on failing too much, that's all you ever start to see. And so what you focus on, that shows up the most in your life. So that's why it's really important to me to be able to find ways to think in a positive way. So instead of me holding myself, and I know I'm talking a lot, but instead of me holding myself to a standard in football saying, I got to be what people think I should be, I got to do this, I got to do this. If I just choose the learning mindset and just say, let's just learn how to be better at each thing that we do. Now I'm not holding myself to a certain standard. Oh, this person left me for whatever reason, or this person did this. Okay, let me learn from it and let me be able to move on accordingly, whether I stay with this person or not. You're just learning how to be able to be better rather than thinking everything's supposed to happen like this.
Well, and that just ties in the first 2 points that you made. And I think it also goes to some comments that I've gotten. Mrs. Moore's class asks about staying mentally healthy. Somebody else asked about coping with struggles in games. Another question comes in about something you do for self-care. And here's what I'm hearing, Tyler. If you change your mindset and you apply that growth mindset to it, and you don't give negative feelings the power, that helps your mental health. Am I hearing that correctly from you?
Yeah, I mean, mental health is so crazy. Like it's so many things, and it's starting to finally be talked about, but it's really hard once you've seen the other side of what it's like, and to have a dark type of mind. A lot of people haven't had it before, or if they did, they don't associate with it anymore, so it's hard to relate. But when you've been there, when you've gone through those crazy type of thoughts, you really have to be able to fight your way out of that state of mind. And it's almost like a maze. And that's why I said, like, you have to learn who you are and what's best for you. Sometimes meditation works. Sometimes they say pinching yourself or just touching yourself. Like, if you touch yourself on your wrist, it helps you stay in the moment. And you find different things to help you, but most importantly, the mind is where the battlefield is. And so that's why I was like, if you can be able to learn how to question your mind rather than just believe like, oh my gosh, I did this, so that means that this bad stuff is about to happen and da da da. When you start understanding why do you think that way, and you start questioning and learning it, for some reason, learning something just does something different for you mentally than just thinking like consequences is what has the utmost root, within yourself.
So when you start going down that road, or when you recognize that there's some negative self-talk happening, this is another question that's coming in. How do you get yourself back on track? I have my own things that I say to myself, but what do you do when you find that negative self-talk starting to bubble up again?
Well, I mean, I'm still trying to figure a lot of it out too. But if there's any things that I could say that I've done, it's, I try to take the power away from everything, even those negative situations, and I try to put it back on me. And I take the power out of their decisions, or I take the power out of what had just happened, and I put the power back on myself. And I say that my power is in my choices. It's not in what other people do. So like I said, if I choose to keep people around in my life, I try to focus more on that power than what the people did. If something bad happens, like, oh, I'm not playing a good game, or I'm making a bad play, or, oh, people think he just got paid, he's not going to be good anymore, he's not looking like he used to, I'm taking the power away from what everybody thinks, and I'm telling myself, I'm here with you. Let's just take one step at a time. And it's important to see your progress. You have to be the one that supports your progress more than anyone else. Otherwise, it'll always be forgotten.
I'm going to offer these two things just as the progress point of it. One, start journaling. And journaling doesn't have to be Dear Diary things, but every morning I'll write for just a couple of minutes what I'm feeling that day, or if something has popped up, and it helps track kind of what you're telling yourself and to see patterns. The other thing I do is I have a calendar, and the only thing I do on that calendar is write down things of what my mood was. Was I confident? Did I feel like quitting that day? Did I need, to just go spend some time by myself? And when I write it down, and it's only a couple of words, what I start recognizing is there's some patterns there. And when it happens the next time, I know that it's not going to last a long time, but I can see kind of how I work my way out of it. So I'm going to offer that to the students as a way to start like taking some of that back so that it's not so scary. Because this is how you are your true self, is learning how to deal with things when it's not a great day and you've got to work your way out of it. Tyler, I want to relate this to football a little bit, because what you're saying is also so similar to what I hear you guys talk about before football games. When you're preparing for the opponent, we in the media like to talk about the matchups, right? How are you going to look against this corner or this safety? Boy, they do this really well. They've got this defense that locks down all of those deep routes. But inside that Seahawks locker room, what you guys are talking about is, what do we do best? Let's focus on what we do best. And I'm kind of hearing you say the same thing in dealing with challenges, right? It's not about them, it's about you. What can you control right now?
Right. Well, that's why I said the crazy thing about life is that we separate our mentality when it comes to sports from our mentality of what happens with life. And so the way that we approach sports is like, okay, I'm trying to be the best I could be. I'm out here, I'm putting in the work. I'm out here, I'm doing this. I'm taking care of my body. I'm eating good, or, whatever it is. I might not be eating good, but at the end of the day, you're out there and you're performing, and people are trying to figure out, how are you doing this? How are you doing that? And everybody just, they separate, sports from life. And people don't really realize, even when you were saying like you journal, like I would write stuff in my journal, and I would just say this. If I don't want to talk a lot about problems or if something's overwhelming me, I'll write down what I'm really feeling, or, I even pray about it. But what I think separates us in this world is that growing up, the world makes you think that journaling is really a diary thing that only girls do. I think when you're growing up and you're learning about talking to counselors or therapists, we're watching movies where people that are crazy are the ones that are doing that. And so it almost puts in this type of mentality of like, I'm not about to journal. I'm about to write about this. I'm not about to talk to people about my problem. And it's like when you start seeing the same movies and same shows, or different movies and different shows, and you start seeing how some of them are starting to react based off of some of the same circumstances that you face, you see what they're doing and you're forgetting it's just a movie. But now all of a sudden, the things that we see are actually becoming the things that we do in life. And so that's why I think it's very important for people to be able to step out of that mind frame. And that's why it's important to renew your mind, because you start getting caught up in, I'm not about to talk to a therapist. If you have a drinking problem, you see how everybody has a drinking problem on the show. If you smoke, you see how people smoke on it. It's just everything starts to become our daily life because of the things that we allow to get into us from what we see in every show, for the most part, every movie for the most part. Not all are people dealing with some type of mental health, and you start seeing how it affects them, and we never hear about a cure to help us learn how to control it ourselves.
Well, and we don't hear about the team of people that could help, right? Their close friends or their families, or in some cases, I know that you've got friends inside the locker room, right? You've got guys that you trust, that you go to when you are dealing with challenges. A couple of these questions have come in today of, why is it important to have people around you that you can trust? And how many people do you have around you that you can trust to be part of that close team that you can rely on in these moments?
Well, I mean, I would say this. I think it's very important to have a group around you. Doesn't matter if it's one or if it's a multitude of people, but I think it's important to have a safe place, because we live in such an opinionated world to where when we talk to people, we don't want to hear their opinions. We don't want to hear how they think about it, how they feel about it. We just want to cope. Like for me, when I'm talking about my problems or I'm talking to people about the things that I face, there's people around me that have been around me in my life for so long to where they realize Tyler just needs to talk, because Tyler gonna figure it out if he just talk for 45 minutes to an hour. It's gonna, once he gets it all out, he's smart enough to come back within himself and be like, oh, okay, because I like helping people. So once I let it all out, it's like now I can be able to help myself. And so you have people that they've been around you, they know you. They know what you need. Some people just need an ear. Some people need a whole lot of conversation back and forth that provides dialogue, but you don't want to be able to have people that's going to do the opposite of what you think. When you're opening up and you're telling them, this is what I'm dealing with, da, 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 and now they start, what do you mean this is what you know, like, it's normal, that stuff is going to happen, but the more and more that people start to really know you, it allows them to be able to understand the right approach to be able to help you. But you can only do that by being able to really communicate, like, this is what you need.
Yeah. And you do have to trust people enough to be able to let them in. Not every single person that you meet, but like you said, you need a safe space. And that space could be a couple of friends. It could be a trusted teacher. It could be your parents or a family member. But make sure that you have a couple of folks around you that are that safe space when you need it. Right. You mentioned something, about kind of winning and making sure that you were winning on a daily basis. We hear Pete talk about always competing. And I think this is another one of those concepts that as Seahawks fans, we look at in context of being on the football field, right? But what does that actually mean? Where are you competing? How often? I know it says always, but like, give me an example of how this relates to something outside of football.
Yeah, well, I would say this, and I thought it was so dope. I almost tweeted or Instagram storied it or whatever. But I went to the field yesterday, and I saw this coach talking to a group of kids, and they had just kind of ran around the track, just trying to get in shape. And he told them, he said, I just want y'all to be your best self today. I want you to be better than you were yesterday. That's all I'm asking you to do. And when I sat there, it made me really reflect on what would that have looked like for a lot of people that I was around growing up. If we was just taught, you just out here to be your best self. What would it look like if everybody in the world had a chance to be told you're competing against yourself? There's nobody else in your lane. There's nobody else running around you. And when you see people running around you, they're not really ahead of you like you think. They're just in their position that they've been placed at. But y'all are all in the same lane at the same place in time. It's just, though they look ahead, they're really not. That's just where they are in their life. But they're trying to figure it out just like you. And so I thought that was really, really cool, because growing up, it's about competition. It's about, man, I got to get my spot. This dude's in front of me. I got to be able to beat him out. If I can't beat him out, then I'm not going to play. And if I'm not, only way I'm going to play is if he gets hurt. And then you go to college, and it's the same type of way. They try to compare you against people and make you compete and make you beat them. And the crazy thing is, your self-talk is about beating them. It's not about beating you. Everything starts to change. And so now that I've come into this place of learning what always competes to me, I realized that's something that I did in college. When people were trying to get me to go against other people and stuff, I said, I'm running against myself. And they didn't like it. But now as you get older, and I feel like we're starting to really become wiser to help the younger generation, I would really tell them, whatever it is that you're choosing to do, if you really learn how to master the concept of you're only here to learn for yourself, to better yourself, and to grow within yourself, it'll save you from so much heartache, so many problems, because no matter what comes your way, if you learn, okay, today I get to be better at making a decision like this. Today I failed a test, but I get to learn from that failure and learn how to be just as much better. But if you put a standard where you feel like you should be at around this time or in the next couple of years, that's what almost psychs you out of, I'm not there yet, I'm a failure. So that's why I'm really big on learning how to compete in a healthy way that doesn't make you feel like because you lost, you didn't get that job, or I didn't win that one-on-one rep. That doesn't mean that this dictates my life now. It just means I have to learn from that to be able to be better for the next opportunity.
I love that you mentioned not winning that one-on-one rep and what that really means, because I do want to point out that when you start something new, right, you are going to experience this feeling of failure, but it's not because you didn't try harder, because you were expected to master something all at one time. Tyler, how long have you been playing football?
Almost my whole life.
Yeah, right. So you've been doing this for a long time, and yet there's still things that you don't win at in practice, right?
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you stop doing them, right?
Doesn't mean any of that.
It means that, okay, well, tomorrow I get a chance to try to be this much better, right? I get to be the best version of myself today. And you know what? Sometimes the best version of yourself is not 100%. I think that's a really important lesson to get out there, because trying new things is one of the ways that you get to be who you are as a person and find out what you really love. And sometimes there's going to be a surprise along the way. I'm curious, Tyler, if poetry was a surprise to you, or if that was always something that you knew was right there at the surface.
No, I think poetry was a surprise to me. Like I said, when I first heard it, it was a guy who was in this group called P4CM, which was Passion for Christ Movement. When he was rapping, I'm like, I thought he was preaching. I didn't know what he was doing. I was on my phone, I think, just multitasking, and heard him rhyming, went back and looked. He said a lot of cool stuff. And at that moment, I just started trying to see, can I do this? Can I do this? And the more and more I did it, the more and more I was able to like really start to, work on my craft and learn how to master it and learn how to perfect it. And like I said, when you master and perfect something, I almost wouldn't even use master, because when you master something, to me, it means you don't need it anymore. Like you don't need to learn about it anymore. And so to me, I think more about perfecting your craft, because it allows you to progress all the time. You never stop learning. You always continue to do something. But for me, I never thought about standing up in front of stage and doing a poem. But when I started doing that, I thought about how far I could take it, all the things I could be able to do. And I haven't even done close to the things that I want to do. But now I'm starting to learn how to be able to put poetry within the realm of football, within the realm of my life, within, like we said, reality versus perception. And the ultimate thing is it's the reason behind why you're doing it. If you're doing it in a genuine reason, in a loving way, ultimately, like all these other things can come, accomplishments can come, accolades can come. But to me, I want to try to do everything out of the best like heart that I can. And that's not always the case. We're human beings. We have agendas, we have intentions and motives, but it's being able to learn how to progress through that each and every day. And so that's why I like poetry. That's why I try to be the best that I can be for myself. Some people might not like it. It's okay. It might not be for you. The next one just might be for you.
Have you ever been afraid to try new things? I mean, like, think about what would have happened if you didn't try poetry.
Yeah, early on in my life, I would go do so much stuff and not care about it, because I never really cared about consequences. Then I started dealing with anxiety, and it's made me kind of like not try to get back into that. But I mean, I'm like I said, I've been open to getting back into things and trying things out, because at the end of the day, if we're all going to die, I want to make sure that I've lived the best life that I possibly could, for my faith in God as well as myself. I want to be able to showcase every gift that I have, not so the world could see it, but so that I could see it. And so that's something that I want to look back on and really be happy with the way that I chose to live my life, regardless of the circumstances. I can be able to celebrate the decisions that came along, and the accomplishments and the accolades and the forgiveness and the love and the kids and just whatever it is.
Yeah. That is so beautiful, the way that you think about that. We've got a few more questions from the students, and we have a teacher who's asking for advice for her students. Here's one that came in. Have you ever thought about giving up? And if you did, what did you do to not give up?
Yeah, I feel like giving up a lot of times, especially when it becomes so mundane. When you do something over and over and over and over, it's almost like when Mashawn kept saying over and over and over. When you do it like that many times, and it starts to become old, you always think about something else that you could be doing. And you know, the truth about it is everything that is not old will excite you because it's something new. If you're learning a new hobby, if you're like, for me, I like real estate. So everything in real estate is going to be new. But the biggest thing that I've learned is at some point, those things are going to be old as well. And so you have to be able to make a decision on what do you want your life to look like based off of all these things that you're doing. Because at some point, whoever you choose to be with, you're going to be around them so much to where you're going to be like, I don't want to be with you anymore. And, you know, some of the hardest things that people learn about even to this day is curiosity. Curiosity destroys a lot of careers. It destroys relationships. It destroys your life. It destroys individuals because people don't ever talk about how things get old and how you don't want to do stuff. Like me, yeah, there's times where I be asking myself, how much longer do you want to play? Like, what if you stopped playing and you just did this? Look how exciting all this other stuff is. But then you got to ask yourself, what does it look like once it's gone? Yeah. And like when you get hurt or I broke my leg, I try everything to get back on that field. You know, when you miss a practice and you see people practicing, you want to get back out there and you don't really know how much you're going to miss it until it's gone. And so if you put yourself into a mindset or a state of mind of, yeah, I'm tired of this is old, but what if it was gone? And what if it was never here again? And I was able to do all this other stuff, would I miss this? And I think if a lot of people were to ask themselves that, it might stop them from allowing curiosity to lead them to a place of no return.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's piggyback on that one just a little bit. Who was your encourager growing up that helped shape who you are today?
I mean, a lot of people, family, my faith in God. I think the biggest thing for me was, and sometimes I try to get back to it. It's hard sometimes, but I really just picked up inspiration from everybody. Like when I was watching Russell Westbrook play, if I seen Russell Westbrook out there and he was balling, or even if he was having a bad game, like just the fact of watching him made me want to do better in my realm of living. If I was listening to Lecrae, that's my favorite rapper. Like growing up, like when I seen him start going hard and what he was doing, it made me want to go harder. And so just being able to see people like perform in their arenas in life, it really allowed me to be like, I got to go harder. I got to do this. But then when you get to the world of everybody's comparing themselves now, everybody's judging you. They say you got to do this and you got to be that, and everybody's your competition. You stop looking at people as, okay, like they balling in this area, I want to ball too. And the world teaches you to look for faults. It teaches you not to look at progress or look at how great this person is or how exciting they've been to watch. It's all about, nah, they don't do this. Look, they didn't win. They didn't do this. They ain't win a championship. And to me, it's not about winning a championship. That's what everybody else says. It's just about who can you see, whether every day or only a few times or once in your life, that will inspire you to get up and do something.
Okay, so a couple more questions here before we ask for some advice. What did you do to push yourself to go out and get better, whether that is mentally or physically? That comes from one of our student attendees today.
I mean, it just depends. Like for me, I try to be better at the areas that I know that I've been good at. So a lot of times I try not to focus on my weaknesses. I try to just focus on my strengths. What is it that I'm good at, and how can I be able to bring that out of me even when people know that I'm good at it and they don't want it to be brought out of me? So like when I'm playing football, people know some of the things that I do and they know what I'm good at. And so I just try to focus on being better at what I'm good at. So that way people are always focused on trying to stop that. And I'm not worried about if they're trying to stop that, because I'm getting to a place to where even if they try to stop it, I can still do it if I need to. But in the meantime, I work on my weaknesses. So that way I don't have to, so that way as I'm working on my weaknesses, I'm also bringing that to light. When it's time to perform some of those weaknesses, I can perform it in a way to where it matches my strengths as well. And so for me, it's almost like a mental game. You learn not to let people, like, to me, it's really a game. How can I win? Yeah. Like, if this person is really good, okay, what are they good at? And how can I take away what they're good at so I can be successful? Like, how can I take away this? And this is a football mindset when it comes to what we call watching film and stuff like that. But like in the real world, like the way that I would use it is, okay, like, how can I be able to make a difference? Okay, well, this company's doing this and this is what I'm trying to do. So how about I sit here and try to be able to plan how what I'm doing is not only going to help me, but the company, or how what I'm doing is going to help everybody else in the company. And when you start showing people what you're good at, they can start coming up with the ideas, or you come up with the ideas, and you just start learning how to just put yourself out there. And that's why I said, for me, it's, if I'm gonna get locked up, I might as well get locked up trying to be the best me that I could be. If somebody makes me have to change my game to where I'm not operating as the same Tyler, then there's an issue that needs to be resolved within myself. But that doesn't mean, like, for me, I don't show everybody every game what I could do. I bring out different things based off of what the situation arises. And so that's where my focus was.
Two more questions that we've got here. This is a quick, I'm gonna ask that this is a quick question. That way we get time to get the advice to students here. How about like 2 sentences on this one? You ready?
Yeah.
What is your biggest success in football?
My biggest success in football? I don't know. I don't really know. I think
I stumped you. The students stumped you?
I think to me, my biggest success is me and my best friend, or I guess school would say my best friend and I. We both won offense and defensive MVP in college at the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. Played with each other since 5th grade, all the way up to college.
Okay, last one here. This is a teacher asking for advice for the kids, knowing that there are students who are going to go back to school full-time next year. What advice would you offer them? Because that is a big change and that is a lot to handle.
Yeah, I would just say, stay in your comfort zone, but also each day learn how to step out of your comfort zone. It doesn't have to be for the whole hour, 2 hours, but, just start stepping out of your comfort zone for 5 minutes. If it comes to being able to have a conversation with somebody you never had a conversation with, you might start off with, hey, and then keep it moving. And as time builds up, the more and more you step out of your comfort zone, what turned into a hey is now like, hey, bro, like, I think we're in the same class together, and so it might not be through conversation, but just being able to learn how to step out of your comfort zone enough to where before you know it, those 10, 20 steps have now become another level of comfort zone that arises. And the last thing I would say is, that goes back to the mental health part, is sometimes that what helps me is when I'm sitting here and all I could think about is condemning, or all I could think about is like, what if this happens? Oh, this is going to happen because I made this decision. Oh my gosh, am I this? Am I that? What I've started to realize is when you counter it with, well, what if this doesn't happen? It takes you back to a center, level mindset to where it's not about this is going to happen now. You just say, well, what if it doesn't? Well, what if this does? What if it doesn't? And it pushes you to a place where you're like, well, let's just go and see.
That's right. Doesn't have to be worst case scenario. And I love that you said that just saying hey or hi can build a relationship. Tyler, I don't know if you realize this, but that's exactly how I build relationships with you guys in a locker room. I don't get a chance to talk to you guys for 30 minutes at a time. And when I meet players for the first time, quite possibly the only thing I say is hi for the first 3 times that I pass them on the field or in the locker room. And that is enough to start building rapport and to start building that trust so that you can start having bigger conversations. So those little exchanges, they absolutely go a long way in building relationships. Before I give you an action item that also piggybacks on what Tyler just said, Tyler, can you give a round of applause to Shauna Moore's class at Chinook Middle School? Every single one of them has been on this call. Miss Moore, give them all a gold star. That's amazing. We love that. And we hope that you're going to keep these conversations going, because this is not intended to be just one day or 1 hour or just one opportunity to listen to Tyler. What we really want to make sure that you're doing is having ideas that you can put into practice to keep the conversation going, to make sure that you are overcoming challenges and seeing them as positives. So Tyler, I'm going to have you issue a challenge to the students in just a minute. Okay, small challenge. And it could be something that you've already said. I'm going to go first. And I'm going to piggyback on what Tyler said about stepping out of your comfort zone and saying hi. We all know that people are going to ask, how are you? In every conversation. Tyler and I did it when we first got on the phone or when we first got on the call, right? Now I want you, here's your challenge, 1 sentence that highlights either something that you're proud of or something that you really want to talk about. So you could say something like, I'm great. I feel really good about how I did on my math test. Or I'm great because I'm excited about the baseball tournament that I play in this weekend. It gives people a little bit of an insight as to who you are, what you want to talk about. It helps the conversation keep going, and that might be a step outside of your comfort zone. So I'm going to ask you to do that at least twice by the end of the week. Tyler, what can you add to that?
Well, I guess what I would add to that is I would say, I would go back to the learning mentality of when it comes to learning, a lot of people will say, well, where do you want to be? And then all of a sudden, if you say firefighter, you start saying, okay, well, now I got to focus on all this just to get to there. And you have an end goal. I think an end goal is cool. But what I would say is going into this week, try to develop a mentality to learn everything. So when you make mistakes, instead of thinking about consequences or condemning yourself, you just learn and you move forward. And it goes into what I'm going to say is, I want you to be able to learn, but I also want you to be able to track your progress in whatever it is that you want to be able to focus on, whether it's the bad stuff you do or the good stuff you do. I just want you to be able to track your progress in whatever areas you choose to track it on, and to be able to see your progress. I want you to be able to see it for yourself, because you'll learn sooner or later. Some people will never focus on your progress. They'll only see you for the decisions that you made. And some people will be able to see the progress that you've made and allow you to evolve into this person that you're becoming. But I just want you to learn how to progress and track your progress, and not put a standard of where you think you're supposed to be. Just see yourself getting better at letting go. See yourself getting better at forgiving. See yourself getting better at accepting. See yourself getting better at testing. Doesn't mean you're going to get an A. You might get a D, but if you're used to getting an F, you're progressing. But you want to be able to put yourself into a place of you're always progressing, to where, okay, I turn that D to a C, turn that C to a B, I turn that B to an A. And so I want you to track it. So when you go from an F to an A, or whatever case it is in life, you're able to keep track and see how far you came, because that's something that I'm telling you, you're going to appreciate down the road once you start to realize that the world doesn't care about progress. It only cares about perfection.
Well, I think that those are perfect challenges to end our time together with. Tyler, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing the insights with the students. I bet if they had to go home and journal a few things, teachers, hint, hint, maybe this is an assignment, that they would be able to fill an entire page with takeaways from our conversation today. This would not be possible if we did not have the support of the United Way of King County. Thank you for making this possible. Thank you to the Seahawks. Tyler, thanks for taking some time. We're going to see you on the field really soon.
No problem. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
All right. The only thing left to say is have a great rest of your day and go Hawks.
All right. See y'all.